Roadhawk, or Road as I'm also known. Welcome to the Pokemon Day predictions BULBACAST. We're going to be exploring our ideas around what could be coming, what's going to possibly happen in our wildest dreams, some of the community's wildest dreams. But additionally, we're going to try to break it down and think what is actually going to happen based on past Pokemon Day presents. I know we have an amazing cast. We have Archaic, who is the leader of all things, and we have Storm Aura. Archaic, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Archaic, Bulb Garden Webmaster, resident old trainer yelling at old area. Uh, I've been around the Pokemon fandom since the very beginning, and well, we've been asked to say what our favorite side game is. Oh, geez, that's so hard. I love I love the Pokemon Snap series, but I also really love Pokemon Conquest.
I love that. And Storm, would you like to introduce yourself and let us know your favorite side game?
Hello, I'm Storm. I am a junior admin on Bulbapedia, and as you might be able to guess from my icon, my favorite my favorite side game is Pokemon Masters, but I also have a really soft spot in my heart for the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series. So I would love it if they announced a new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon in the presents.
Love it. I love it. So, as we dive into our conversation, I think the best thing to start is let's start with our hopes. I know these can be anything from what we want. I know we had our own Wyndon pitch the idea of Pokemon Galar Darkest Day with some wonderful art of a Greedent just terrorizing Galar. Um, but I'd like to check. Who would like to go first on saying your top hopes for this Pokemon Presents?
I mean, I guess I'll go first. I want to see uh, no core games. I want to see just side games. So I'd be absolutely ecstatic if we got a Pokemon Conquest, a Mystery Dungeon, but anything that's not a remake, a new generation, or even a Legends. I don't think now's the right time for a Legends, given the whole issue with the Switch successor.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. I know the Pokemon community is craving for more time. I think we've seen that in our own social media, as well as the idea that in general, Pokemon needs more time on games. But, Storm, what's your thoughts?
Um, I mean, yes, I absolutely think that they need more time on games. The all the bugs in Scarlet and Violet bug me. But yeah, I but at the same time, I would really, really like the them revisit Unova. It is my favorite region, and you know, I um if they if they want to go I don't want them to go as faithful as BDSP, but like I also don't think there's too much they need to improve. So so I wouldn't mind if it was a relatively faithful remake and just, they add in some uh Black 2 and White 2 references here and there or something. Um I'm really surprised, honestly, that there weren't any Unova characters who cameoed in the Scarlet and Violet DLC, even though it's literally set in Unova. Um, like, come on, Sharon is a teacher. He should be here. but yeah, I guess that made me kind of optimistic that they might be saving those 3D Unova models for a Unova remake. But yeah, I mean that's but, if they don't have any core series stuff at all, I would be totally fine with that. Um, like I said, I'm really hoping that they will announce a new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Um, especially particularly, I want one that is like a new one, not just a remake of Explorers. I've seen some people saying on socials that they want that, but I think that Explorers is perfectly fine as it is. I enjoy revisiting it now and then, but I really want a new PMD experience. We haven't had a new PMD since Generation 6, where you could go up to, it included all Pokemon up to Hoopa. I think Volcanion wasn't in there, but and so I'm not saying that they need to throw all the Pokemon in there, but anything Gen 7 onward didn't get the chance to appear in a game yet, and there are some really great Pokemon
I think those.
in those generations, and um I would love to play as a Litten or a Rowlet or Sobble or Sprigatito. So yeah, two biggest hopes, I guess, are Unova remake and new Mystery Dungeon.
Awesome. So I know that in the community right now, there is a lot of speculation around Unova games, and I can get to the other side of speculation on that right now. I myself personally avoid leaks as much as possible, but based on that, I would love to ask you both, as I would personally love to see uh, Unova remix done well, but I think one of the things that I've personally heard is and again, this could be completely out there, and I'd love to get both of your thoughts, but how would you both feel about uh, a Legends Unova game either set in the future of the Pokemon universe or a Legends Unova game set in the past? I think there's a lot of richness in both. I know people love the idea of getting to see the original dragon, but let's start with Archaic, since you were the first person to go. What would you feel about those settings?
I mean, I'll live up to my name and say that I'd love to see the more archaic setting. Um, I, I think that's appropriate for Legends to be showing stuff that happens in the past. I guess my biggest fear is that, given the concerns in the fandom about the technical issues in both the original Legends Arceus and in Scarlet Violet, if we had another Legends come out that was basically running on the same engine that didn't resolve any of the technical issues, I think fans would be somewhat upset. And I feel like it probably needs a little more time in the oven, uh, especially with the potential of a new Switch coming out. Well, as per the rumors now, early 2025. I feel like doing stuff set in the far future would be interesting, but if you're going to do that, I feel like you're not really doing that around Unova. You're doing that around the Paradox Pokemon. And if that's the case, then it'd be almost like, why aren't you doing this as a second DLC wave for Scarlet Violet? So, I mean, that's going to be the biggest difficulty with uh, doing past and future stuff now. Like, at what point must the Paradox Pokemon be a part of that?
And I think that's a great point. I know one of the I know a particular part of the Pokemon fandom is not crazy about the future Paradox Pokemon designs to begin with, so I think that would be a divisive game. Um, but I want to make sure to give you some time, Storm. What are your thoughts on that possibility?
Um, I am someone who actually really appreciates the future paradox designs. I think they're really cool. But I still think I would prefer a Legends game set in the past. Um, which is nothing nothing to do with paradox Pokemon at all. Really I just think that Unova has really interesting lore, um and I would love to explore it. Like, um that everybody talks about the original dragon, but I'm pretty sure that was like 2500 years ago, so maybe not, doesn't have to be that far, but something like Legends Victini, where we get to see about the war that people apparently fought over Victini's power, and getting to see how it wound up getting locked in Liberty Lighthouse. Um, and or Legends Meloetta, where you learn about its lost melody or whatever. And um, I don't know. I just there's a lot. Um, there's a lot of interesting stuff to explore about Unova's past, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if they're going to do that and do it justice, given how much interesting stuff, can they do it immediately? Like, I honestly feel like if they want to do something for Unova right now, then like just some free additional content for the Scarlet Violet DLC that does like add in some of the Unova gym leaders to be able to visit Blueberry Academy or things like that. I mean, hell, people would go crazy if N suddenly showed up on Blueberry Academy to teach a lecture or something, wouldn't they?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like with all the special coaches that you can invite from Paldea, like why can't you invite special coaches from Unova too? I mean, I know your character doesn't know the Unova characters, but like,
No, but you're going to school with their children.
yeah, it's like what I'm going to school. It's like I'm going to school with Clay's child. Why can't I meet Clay?
I think that's a great point. Speaking on that, I know it wasn't originally on our itinerary, but I love this idea. Speaking of DLC, I know that there have been, once again, rumors of a third Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC. I know that there are people who oppose it, as we literally just got an epilogue for it. Um, but in that, I want to ask, what are your, if we got a third DLC, would you actually want it to explore Unova in the current state of Switch games? And if you do or don't, who would you most want to see other than N?
Mm,
Well, I mean, I it's like I would love to explore Unova in the in the current in the current games, but I don't think I would want it as a DLC of Scarlet and Violet, because that just doesn't feel right. This is a this is a at heart it's a Paldea game. It's not a Unova game. So give give Unova its own game, please. um,
yeah, I feel like if they did any more Scarlet Violet DLC, it'd have to be something relatively small scale, using the areas that already exist, and it would I mean, honestly, it'd probably be more along the lines of a feature update for people who've already bought the DLC, as opposed to being uh, like an actual brand new story content or something like that.
yeah,
Uh,
I feel like they could do it wouldn't hurt to do maybe a little bit more with Terapagos, because like they have because like there's all this lore around Ogerpon and Pecharunt and all of that that's really interesting. And then there's also this turtle that is somehow responsible for the whole terrestrial phenomenon. We know nothing about it other than that.
They might be leaving that open because they want to tie it in to Pokemon Horizons at some point, and they don't want to give the game away with the story there. If they give too much information on Terrapagos in the games, then it would kind of bind the anime storyline a bit. So I can kind of understand them doing that. But I mean, let's be honest. If they did anything for Scarlet Violet, whether it's a free content update or whether it was a actual paid DLC expansion, they'd be doing it because they need to fill in time, because they don't have other stuff, and because it's something that's relatively low effort compared to some of the other things they could do, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, if they're working really hard on making some brand new big full games and they just need something to tide us over, I would prefer something like that than to get something that's half baked and unfinished.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
I would also have to agree. I think part of the ambition behind getting a third DLC is for that exact reason. I've heard a wide variety of speculations and guesses, and Archaic, I think you actually mentioned in our last cast that the Pokemon Company had actually expressed interest in giving games more time. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's uh, what we've heard from interviews that were done around the time of the last World Championships, that Pokemon Company wanted to give things a bit more time to develop, which is definitely not a bad thing. Uh, of course, it does mean that it either means one of two things. One, that we have to adjust our expectations down a bit, or perhaps two, that they're going to work with some more outside studios so they can maintain a pace of releases. In which case, BDSP, I mean, we a lot of people didn't like what we got, but in terms of polish, I mean, okay, it had some bugs too, but in terms of like overall polish for what it was trying to do, it wasn't actually that bad. And if you could have added like the equivalent of the Delta episode to it or whatever, then people might have taken it a bit better. And honestly, I mean, if they were to give us like a full Unova game this year, uh, Unova remakes in the style of BDSP that aren't quite as faithful and actually go a bit more down the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire route of remakes, heck yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and I have to agree. I would love that. I am one of the people who probably maybe one of the few. I'm not sure, but I actually found the art style of BDSP. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I agree with you. I think that if they could go down the Oros saga kind of style and break it off enough, that would be wonderful. But there is one other thing I really wanted to dive into, unless someone has any else other thoughts in this, which is there's a lot of talk around Johto right now, and the remakes and that whole region. Is there anything else anyone wanted to touch on, or should we jump into Johto with the question I have for everyone?
Well, we should probably give some of the context on Johto as well for why this is coming up. Um, November this year is the 25th anniversary of the release of Pokemon Gold and Silver in Japan. So, time wise, it does make complete sense if they want to do something to acknowledge the history of the franchise. The problem, I think, is that people are getting, oh, they're going to give us a Legends or yada yada, and I'm like, oh no, they won't. I think um, if we get something Johto, it's going to be Let's Go Johto.
Yeah.
And
Although I honestly wouldn't mind a Let's Go Johto. I've I've actually been replaying a bit of Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee recently, and it's more enjoyable than I remembered. Like the catching mechanic is a little weird, but like all the the updated designs for all the characters are so cute. I really like the overall aesthetic of the game. It's like the only it's like the only 3D Pokemon game that actually got following Pokemon right. Um,
yeah,
and
it
yeah, it's just it doesn't change anything major, but like there's a lot of little things that it added that I feel like it is, in my opinion, the best way to experience Kanto.
yeah, it's gonna be one of those polarizing games, isn't it? It's something that, like, especially for people who have gotten into the Pokemon franchise through Pokemon Go, for whom that may be their biggest and main Pokemon game, for those people, it's a gateway into playing the other Pokemon games on Switch. Um, and it's also really good for the younger fans. It's a interesting way to introduce someone to the franchise for the first time. Uh, but at the same time, a lot of the older fans are like, oh no, like if we go back to like this region again, we want something new. Though, of course, we have to remember, like, how long's the Switch been out now? How long has it been since Heart Gold, Soul Silver released, or since like Gold, Silver, and Crystal were on the 3DS eShop? I mean, okay, you could still buy those until relatively recently, but uh, there's many kids today who did not grow up having access to a 3DS or DS with Heart Gold, Soul Silver. It is a region that a lot of people who are active in the fandom now have never played. So,
So yeah,
yeah.
it does kind of make sense that they would want to they want to revisit old regions every so often.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to them doing it. I mean, it feels like it would be relatively low effort for them to do, just on the basis that the engine from Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee was solid. It's basically got everything. You can reuse a lot of the basic character models from that as well, so you're really only having to make sure that the Pokemon are good, that the gym leaders and elites have nice, unique models, and the main character models, obviously. Um, but it's like something you could conceivably see them doing relatively quickly if they needed to, again, as a schedule filler. Though you'd hope they'd put more effort into it as a 25th anniversary of the game thing. But the flip side of that kind of becomes, doesn't it seem like it would make more sense to be the first Pokemon game on a Switch 2 rather than the last Pokemon game on Switch?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, I see what you mean.
and I think that's a great point. And I think that actually leads really well into one of the conversations pieces you wanted to talk about, Archaic, which was the evolution of games and consoles and how they can be a bit odd in the perspective of the mindset and how they release games on consoles.
Well, yeah, there's the concern, isn't it? It's like for main series games, Game Freak has not hesitated to release games for the superseded console on the basis of, well, there's more consoles here, so more people are going to be able to buy the game. They're not like, we have to remember that Pokemon is technically a second party series rather than a first party series in many ways. So they're not using the franchise as much as Nintendo would love to. The franchise isn't really used to sell new consoles, not typically. So like we got uh, Black White, Black 2, White 2 on DS after 3DS was out. We got Ultra Sun and Moon on 3DS after Switch was out. So the question kind of becomes, what games would they not hesitate to release this year, and what ones might they actually hold off to a new console? I could see them holding off a Let's Go to a new console and telling us that they're going to release it uh, like as soon as the new console's out in honor of like the 25th anniversary of the release of the game. But of course, now that, I mean, according to the rumors, Switch 2 was originally planned for November and has now been pushed back. So if they had been planning to do that, this game will be presumably pushed back as well. But if they've got anything else that they were planning to release, they might not have been caring about Switch 2 at all and have been aiming for a November release anyway. So,
And speaking of games like that, and I may be wrong, and if if I'm not, I'm definitely dating myself. But didn't even like the either like the original Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games have like one game on the DS and one on the Game Boy Advance or something like that?
they
I feel
Yeah,
did.
like I
yeah, it was kind of their gimmick. That Red Rescue Team was exclusively for Game Boy Advance, and Blue Rescue Team was exclusively for the DS, so that you could use dual slot mode to communicate between the two games.
Speaking of that Red Mystery Dungeon, by the way, and I know this is going off on a tangent, but I have heard some people suggest that if they do need schedule fillers, one easy way to do it, and perhaps an easier way to honor the release of Gold and Silver, is to have some of these classic games on Switch Online. And while we don't have DS ones, we do have GBA on Switch Online, so we could do something like Red Rescue Team, even though it's already had the remake, but I don't think they care about that. I mean, Link's Awakening released on Switch Online, even though the Link's Awakening remake's out on Switch. Um, but we could get Red Rescue Team, we could get Gold, Silver, Crystal. Uh, Theoretically, at least, it's all up to Pokemon Company if they want to put them there. But there's no technological reason why they couldn't, and
Are
especially,
there any Pokemon games on Switch Online right now?
yep. So we've got the Pokemon Stadium games, we've got Pokemon Puzzle League, we've got the Pokemon Trading Card game for Game Boy, though not TCG2 yet. I mean that would be huge. Like if they put that on there with an English translation, and I'm pretty
That
sure that game was officially translated and then just never released because GBA was already out. I'd have to go back and double check that. But I mean, I've been playing that game in Japanese here on our Twitch channel recently, and I'm loving it. But imagine if that came out on Switch Online. I think some people
That
would
would
be
be
very
pretty
happy.
cool.
What else? I think
And
there's also. I'd have to double check. I think the Japanese Pokemon Puzzle Challenge is also on Switch Online. It might only be there on the Japanese one, though, not the English.
well, and going back to, I think this is also another wonderful transition. I know Storm, you were really interested in discussing side games, and I know we've touched on uh, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon a little bit, but one thought I had, and I'd love to get your opinion, but especially yours, Storm. Um, do you feel like that with the 25th anniversary, if they do a new game, they may put a special highlight on Johto and try to pull in something for the Pokemon Mystery Dungeons?
Well, I mean, the first mystery dungeons came out during, um, right, came after Ruby and Sapphire, so there's a lot of emphasis on the Gen 3 legends in there, and then Explorers puts a lot of focus on the Gen 4 legends. Um, so there hasn't really been a mystery dungeon that puts a lot of focus on Gen 2 legends. Um, I mean, I guess they could do a new um mystery dungeon that focuses on the Gen 2 legends, but I think that would be kind of boring. Like I said before, I if they're gonna do a new mystery dungeon, I want it to be, you know, to include the new Pokemon, so Gen 7, Gen 8, Gen 9. Could even be exclusively those gens. I wouldn't mind. Um, make it a little easier on themselves. But yeah, I the Gen 2 Pokemon have been in the series since the beginning, so um I think that Mystery Dungeon would not really be the best place to do Johto revisiting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for Mystery Dungeon, um, so if we have a look at who developed them, Super Mystery Dungeon was the last actual original one, and that was developed by, well, Pokemon Company with Spike Chunsoft. Uh, but double check. Oh no, Spike Chunsoft were still involved with the remake. So, alright, if Spike Chunsoft are doing most of the work, there's not really a reason we couldn't have this come out while not like distracting from work that Pokemon Company's doing. But then again, Spike Chunsoft have been very busy lately. So like uh, they did that Master Detective Archives Rain Code thing, Anonymous Code. I think there was actually another mystery dungeon recently, Shiren the Wanderer, or that's no, that's coming up soon. Um, so they have been working on other games. Would they have had enough time to have done a mystery dungeon game? I don't know. I mean, honestly, if we were going to get a surprise mystery dungeon announcement, I kind of want to see the the WiiWare ones. They were released only in Japan. There's no
Yeah,
reason that those couldn't be brought up to standard for Switch.
I mean, from obviously I never played them myself, but from what I remember reading about them, they weren't super. Um, they weren't super substantial. Um, not not a lot of um, you know, not a lot of plot to them. And that's one of the biggest. The story is one of the biggest strengths of the Mystery Dungeon series. Um, so
Mm,
it's I'm always excited to see media that never got released internationally get the chance to be played by an international audience, but that's the We Were Mr. Dungeons aren't exactly the most exciting release, in my opinion.
okay.
And going off of that, I know that speaking of games, one thing we haven't covered yet is some of the expectation. I know that Pokemon has done a lot of interesting things with mobile games recently. I think a lot of people weren't expecting Sleep to be such a big hit. But I know around this time of year, especially because Storm and I are such big fans of Pokemon Masters, we are coming up on the 4.5 year anniversary. Having just gotten Gladion and Magearna, who I personally love using, that pair is a powerhouse. Um, but I would love to get opinions. I know that typically around this time we get some really powerful sync pairs. We get some really cool things coming up, and there are rumors and speculations around that. Personally, I would love to see some sync pairs that we haven't seen. I'm also a big believer in Pokemon Masters original characters being brought in, though I know a lot of people would want to see, um, you know, Pokemon trainers from Legends. Oh goodness, Legends Arceus come in, like Volo. But what is everyone's thoughts on that coming up, especially with the seeming interest in diversifying the Pokemon in the game currently?
If I could pick one sync pair to add right now, it would be Licon Sprigatito. I think that so we're coming up to the official worldwide releases of Pokemon Horizons around the world. So Australia gets it for the first time on Pokemon Day. We've got a 8 hour, 8 hour, 4 hour marathon, 8 episodes on TV to launch the series here, and the US gets it on Netflix in early March. So, I mean, pretty much perfect timing for Pokemon Masters to be doing its 4.5 year anniversary stuff.
Yeah,
So,
it's a possibility I honestly hadn't considered, but I I don't know. I feel like it's a little risky. Like when they did the whole Ash the Ash collaboration for what was that, the third anniversary? Um, but that was Ash is this big name character who's been uh you know kind of an iconic figure in the Pokemon series for a long time. So of course he's gonna make money. Um, and so I feel like introducing a sync pair of a new kind of a brand new character that international audiences maybe aren't familiar with yet, that might be a little risky. But then again, like half the game's revenue comes from Japan anyway, so maybe it doesn't matter.
yeah. I mean, I don't think they'd even necessarily make it as part of a scout that you have to use currency to buy.
Oh,
it,
so like a free pair?
yeah, as a way to promote the new anime. So
Oh,
just
yeah,
doing it as part of a special sync pair event.
yeah, that is that's also a possibility. We just got 3 of those this month though, so I feel like I wouldn't. not really expecting any more.
Yeah,
Um,
admittedly, I was surprised they gave us Riley and Lucario.
yes. Oh my gosh, I am shocked, honestly, that Riley is just a freebie because he was like one of the ones that I was expecting to be like, oh yeah, that's Pokefair level. They just give him away for free.
Yeah. So, but like, I think if they're looking at it as a promotional thing, I could see them doing the Lico. I think that would be interesting. Um, but like this is the first anniversary we've had since like the complete end of the villain arc and everything, isn't it?
I do
Yes.
believe so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was kind of wrapping up at the end at last anniversary.
So like unless they're giving us some mysterious stones content, which might be tough because I think a lot of people still haven't fully unlocked all of the things for that. I mean, I haven't been playing it every day, so I certainly haven't. Um, I
I
think
mean,
it might be hard for them to do main story related content. So it seems like this would be the opportunity to do more of that kind of promotional side story stuff.
yeah, I know there have been rumors about that, like, oh, they're gonna do, that, because the Mysterious Stones chapter is, building up to some, Arceus thing that they're gonna do Volo this anniversary, but that it's like number one, that seems way too soon. This it's like this chapter's been going on for less than 6 months. Um, but then also that that they don't the big anniversary events usually don't have anything to do with the main story at all. Um, like that it's just that they're often introducing new whether we get like the Neo champions have been the last couple um you know uh let's see Red Cynthia Ash the and there was the Pokefair trio of Raihan, Skyla, and May, um, and uh, the so yeah, it's always kind of totally divorced from the main story, um, and so I'm not really expecting like Legends pairs, but I could see them doing um, I could see them doing Paldea doing a focus on Paldea Sync pairs for the anniversary, because I was thinking about it and I've thought it, I've been thinking that it's a little odd that we have four Paldea units in the game now and still no Paldea theme skill. Um, and at the 1.5 anniversary was when they added the Galar theme skill, along with a couple new Galar units. And so I feel like it would make sense to you know to kind of maybe do that again with now with the Paldea units. Although it's then the question of who who would be you know the who would be the big name Paldea characters that they would add.
Mm. Yeah, like
The
the main characters for the Paldea games are not really like because they are
interesting.
much because they're much more explicitly player avatars. There's not as much like clear personality attributable to them. Like
Yeah, and like their base designs are pretty, you know,
generic.
bland.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
generic.
like Gloria as the canon sword and shield main character has a personality, and so far we've only really gotten one Scarlet Violet thing that gave the in Scarlet Violet character, specifically the female version of the Scarlet Violet main character, a personality. Uh, and while I'm as big a fan of the lesbians Gengar brought together as anyone else who saw that music video, uh, I feel like if they were going to bring in the Paldea characters, I mean, it, honestly, Liko seems to make as much sense as any of the game characters because she's at least
Yeah,
got a nice, rich personality.
yeah. Um, and I could see, they could do like maybe the professors potentially. I feel like they're fair relatively well liked. Um, so giving professors with the with the legendary drag or not dragons. Um, I mean they are dragon type, but Miraidon, Koraidon. Um, I could see them doing that. That doesn't sound like a bad anniversary pair.
Well, and I've noticed, especially, it seems like, especially lately, um, there has been an intentionality with the 4.5 year anniversary, and the anniversary sync pairs. I know people have correlated the fact that Hop, Marnie, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name right now. Um, Bede, were the 4.5 or 3.5 year, and I might even be messing that up. They were at the last 0.5 anniversary, and they were specifically focused on the legendary birds from Kanto. I've seen other commentary that like YouTubers and picking up that there seems to be, like, I've even heard with the seasonal sync pairs, they seem to have functionality for the future of the game, not necessarily the current meta. So I think depending on who they chose, and to be honest, just based off of all of the characters in Scarlet and Violet, I would not be surprised if we got Arlen. Um, just because of how much they focused on him in particular in Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah,
On top of that, I think his storyline in Scarlet and Violet is easily one of the most compelling. On top of that, I could also see possibly Gita. I don't think necessarily nearly as much for a 4.5 year anniversary, though I could see them leaning into the Paldea theme maybe in the following month, with especially if they release a somewhat new mechanic or they expand on something that they've already done with EX rolls. I could see that being a hint at least for what they're doing for the 5 year anniversary.
My only concern with bringing in some of this Paldea stuff is that they already wasted the most popular Paldea character. They've
I
already
know.
given us an Iono Poker Fair Scout with just a random story event out of nowhere, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's kind of weird.
yeah, like the only character. Well, okay, there's two characters who I could see them using if they're like wanting to go above that for the anniversary explicitly with Paldea. One of which we've already talked about, Liko. The other would be Larry. And I think that's your only options.
That would be a statement, but
To,
is Larry as popular in Japan as he is in the West?
My understanding is yes.
Okay, fair enough.
I, to be honest, just based off of that statement about Larry, I could see them doing a full story around him getting a new outfit and being forced to wear it for his job, with fashion being such a big part of the game. And I feel like there's a lot of richness with there, but I feel like just based on how many people love his story, they could really work with the like I'm only here for my job mentality for him.
Oh no, they're going to use him for an Easter seasonal event, aren't they?
I love it. They probably could,
They
yeah.
probably could, but they're not going to do that unless he's already got a regular outfit, and he doesn't have
Yeah.
his own regular outfit yet, so they couldn't do that this year. Maybe next year.
Unless they decide to, introduce Larry for the anniversary and then give him a seasonal outfit the next month.
I mean, on the one hand, that would be overworking Larry. On the other hand, that would be in character. So,
And it's not completely out of the blue. They brought in Shauna, and I think it wasn't long after that they gave her
It was still,
that team.
it was about 3 months.
Yeah,
I
The
mean,
team
but
phase was
it could
also about
happen.
3 months.
um, speaking of that, I did want to. I'm sure we have people listening who like Pokemon Go. I don't personally play it, so I don't have the most expertise on this. But I know Pokemon Go has been getting a lot of opinions, a lot of new events. Do we expect anything happening with Pokemon Go on Pokemon Presents?
We will, like, based on previous Pokemon Presents, if we get anything for Pokemon Go, it will be telling us stuff about the upcoming Pokemon Go Fest live event stuff, and that's probably about it. Because we've already had like the debut of current generation Pokemon, so like maybe they'll briefly talk about some Pokemon debuts upcoming or something like that, but I don't think we're going to get very much detailed information. Like Pokemon Masters has at least like the big anniversary event that happens around Pokemon Day, so they always have something new to announce. Go doesn't really fit in with that schedule, so it's just going to be like the generic announcements about like I guess uh the upcoming season. So
Yeah, just here's our upcoming event. See you there.
yeah,
Same kind of thing I expect from like Remix and Unite.
yeah, pretty much like Unite might tell us about a couple of upcoming new Pokemon. Remix will maybe tell us about some upcoming event, but I don't expect a great deal of detail on those. Heck, as is with Masters, we will get probably like a minute trailer, and that'll be it.
Yeah, but and and I mean we might have already data mined all the info about the anniversary units a day or two before, so it might be nothing new.
Well, yeah, that's of course the problem for like the casual fan um, who's only reading like official news announcements. And to be fair, with Bulba, we only publish the official stuff. We don't publish the data mines because we could get in trouble for that. Um,
Yeah,
but for those fans, whatever we see in uh, the presents will be new. But for anyone looking at the data mines, yeah, we're gonna know about this before the event. It won't be anything special. It'll
yeah.
be the
Although,
opportunity during the presents to go out to the kitchen and grab a drink.
although, yeah. The Speaking of data mines, I think it would be kind of cool, interesting if Sleep announced adding another new area. Like I know it hasn't been very long since we got Lapis Lakeside, but that a new area feels like a big a significant thing that they might want to show off in a presents. And there's a there was a data mine description of the new area, so we know they have at least some plans for it already.
Mm,
So that might be a interesting thing for Sleep to announce.
geez, I mean, I feel like it's too early to announce a new area, but I guess they could announce it, but if if it's still a bit further out, or maybe they release special areas. So like an area that's only available for a particular event. So like instead of having like the Easter event, which they'll presumably have, and actually they might give us details about the Easter event, um, given that's in late March this year. Um,
Yeah.
but it could be that instead of like having us do an Easter event where we get bonuses if we're in green grass, that they have a
There's a
new
brand
area
new
that's just available for that one Easter week or something.
yeah, a brand new Easter Island.
Easter Island, yeah, that could work. uh, but yeah, I mean, sleep's in a bit of a weird position. I kind of feel like if they were going to announce anything for that, it should be feature wise. It should be something that enhances the gameplay and improves the user experience. Because right now, frankly, the early game for Sleep sucks.
Yeah.
Um, and opening a new area sucks. Like, first
Yeah.
time ever in Lapis, and I don't think I'm going to reach Ultra 1. Uh, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And
And meanwhile, I feel like most Sleep players haven't even unlocked it yet.
yeah, most Sleep players haven't, and most Sleep players probably don't even have like a huge group of level 30s. Like level 30, when you can consistently field a team of Pokemon at level 30, is when the game starts to open up. And
Yeah.
like I'm not quite there yet. I've got to admit. I do
Yeah.
have a decent team that is full of level 30s, but obviously that means I'm not getting the preferred berries for that Snorlax, and that's a problem. But
Yeah.
without those Pokemon in my party, I can't manage to fill my pot. So yeah, it's something to help us level quickly. Uh,
Yeah.
like maybe even another event like they had at Christmas. Uh, well, it wasn't the Christmas event, was it? Was it the New
No,
Year's
yeah.
event?
No, it was
Or
the Christmas event that had it had a limited time function where you could like use like 6 times the amount of dream shards to double the experience because they
yeah,
knew they gave us way too many dream shards.
yeah, like something like that. They're not forcing us to do 6 times as many this time. Uh,
Yeah.
but I mean, if they do something like that for Easter, that would be good. I think a lot of players would appreciate that.
Yeah, and even just like you said, a new feature or something that would allow us to actually like level up your Pokemon without having to literally sleep with them. That would be nice because I would like to be able to love be it'd be nice if I could be training up Pokemon for Lapis Lakeside or Snowdrop Tundra or whatever, while still using a team that's good for the area I'm on. Um, but I can't do that without sacrificing one of my current team members to bring on a new one who is not good.
Yeah, like that's pretty much the problem, isn't it? Like that you need the Pokemon out who have the right berries and ingredients for your current Snorlax, but to actually get XP, you'd have to change to different Pokemon to sleep with them, but then your other Pokemon wouldn't regain enough
Wouldn't get
energy
any
for the next day.
energy.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, something that allows Pokemon to be training in the background and actually gaining experience. Um, but, I mean, they don't, it's not called Pokemon exercise, it's called Pokemon sleep.
Yeah.
And just for the sake of time, I do have a couple questions, but I kind of correlating into this. I know we've talked about Unova and Johto, we've talked about Paradox Pokemon, but if we do get in this Pokemon Presents any reveals of either new regional, paradox, convergent forms, I would love to know what you both would like to see in that, if it could be anything in the Pokemon decks.
If I could have anything. Um, more alternative evolution paths. Actually, no, no, no. What I would like to see is them bringing back their old gimmicks. I mean, heck, you could do that for Scarlet Violet DLC even. Like, have something discovered at Blueberry that lets us Mega Evolve there. Or that lets us use Z moves there, or whatever. Like, I'm kind of sick of every generation having a completely new gimmick. And that new gimmick meaning that we lose access to the old gimmick uh, and everything that entailed. Especially when those were like specific forms of Pokemon that literally cannot be seen anywhere now. So if they were going to give us Scarlet Violet feature updates or additional DLC or whatever, give us those. Give us back
I
like Mega Kangaskhan and Mega Gardevoir and Mega
I
Gallade and all
can
that.
definitely see where you're coming from there, but I kind of like how the gimmicks are kind of restricted to one generation. It kind of makes them, you know, makes each generation kind of feel a bit more, unique in that regard. Um, and like, especially when, this stuff is so baked into something like megas are baked into the lore of, Kalos, and then you head to Alolan, they're just like, here's a keystone, here's some mega stones, have fun. And it's like, oh, I thought this was supposed to be important. Um, so from a lore perspective, I kind of appreciate the gimmicks being a little more restricted. Um, but they've already blurred the lines there with terrestrialization, allowing it in regions other than Paldea. So not quite as there's not quite as strong of a case to restrict that to Paldea. Um, but yeah, it is just my thoughts. And on the topic of the original question, what kind of convergent or paradox Pokemon I'd like to see. Um, I think that um, okay, yeah, I don't, I got nothing.
Okay, there's a lot to choose from. One thing I do want to highlight. there's definitely been, I think, a lot of talk around Mega Evolution in Gen 9, especially with, if I'm remembering correctly, Paldea being so close to Kalos. I remember when the terrestrialization, that's a heck of a word to use, for Paldea was announced, there was a lot of talk of like, is this tied to Mega Evolution because it seems crystal-like, and the original trailers kind of hinting at a gem-like status. And I've definitely heard some resurgence of that with the mindset that I mean, I've heard everything from, we may travel to certain part of Kalos again, that being brought up again. I've heard, the talk of, um, if
Well, it seems like
terrestrialization.
with every game that comes out, there are people who are talking about traveling back to Kalos because it just felt so unfinished. Um,
Definitely. And oh,
of all the games that I felt really needed a third version, or you know extra paired versions or something, I felt like X and Y were really it. Um, so
I mean, you would have thought that after a game based in Spain that literally borders, well, Iberian Peninsula, really, that borders France, that we could have gotten something that does actually link the two regions. Given this
yeah,
is the first time we've really had arguably bordering regions since the Pokemon regions were parts of Japan. So, yeah, like, I mean, part of the reason I mention these kinds of gimmicks is because I kind of feel like if we were to get, well, if we were going to get new Pokemon at this point, they're probably going to be legendaries or something like Pecharunt or whatever. Um, if we're going to get new regional forms or whatever, surely they'd bring them in with a new game. And as we've already discussed, some of these potential new games are maybe a little less likely. I mean, as much as people have been talking about Legends, it might not be the time. So, yeah.
I mean, I don't think when Legends Arceus was first announced, I don't think they mentioned right away that there were going to be new forms or evolutions of past Pokemon.
No, they didn't.
So if they are gonna make a new game that has new stuff in it, they're probably not gonna mention it on Pokemon Day.
and with that, I know we've talked about quite a bit today. Um, But one thing that I think is always a big topic and I'd love to get opinions on this, is, with Pokemon Presents, there's always talk of, is there going to be a new region? Is that? And I know we've covered the realities of this that we think, and kind of what we think Pokemon should do with waiting. But I'd love to ask, as one of our final topics, what real world country would you want for a future region?
I mean, want, obviously, Australia. Uh, think we're going to get, I don't know, look at wherever Game Freak staff have been posting travel photos from on their personal Twitter accounts, and you'll probably find out.
I feel like maybe an Italy or Egypt region could be cool.
Italy is probably a decent chance. Like, I don't think they're going to do a South American one just yet. In part because I don't think they would have been willing to travel to some of the countries in South America at the moment with some of the recent instabilities. Western Europe seems more likely, like Italy, Germany, like those countries seem pretty straightforward, easy enough for them to do. Italy's probably got a richer cultural experience that they could tie into, and they could have us cooking pizza this time. So, yeah, I mean, I'd take Italy if they did that.
And I imagine Italy region would have, great artwork and architecture and food and varied environments. You've got islands and all kinds of stuff.
I would have to say, if we got Italy, um, please, Pokemon, allow us to enter buildings again.
Yes, I was
Um,
just about to
Yes.
say that. How could you not have? I mean, it was bad enough with Paldea, but like if we did Italy and we couldn't enter a building and see the massive like frescoes on the ceiling or whatever, it would just be such a disappointment.
Yeah.
I would also love for them to diversify shops. I think one of my biggest gripes with Paldea, outside of not being able to enter buildings, is it was pretty much copy and paste in a lot of shops.
Mm.
Um, and I would, going off the idea of frescoes, I would love for there to be diversification of food and restaurants, like artistic places, things even beyond that, just based on that. And I would also, if they did the Colosseum, I would really hope that they did it right. Um, that's kind of my hopes.
Coliseum is now a gym stadium.
Actually, I'm sorry, this is going to be a complete tangent, but speaking of Colosseums, can we please have Colosseum XD double pack remake HD something, please?
That
Maybe so.
that is that's been on my list for a long time. Those games have been so neglected, and I think especially with the fan base kind of surging up, like all the YouTubers playing it in recent years, the call from community players who didn't get to experience it, and YouTubers. I feel like that's honestly my hope, is getting a XD Gale of Darkness either remake or expansion something.
Yeah, even just making it available on Switch Online. Um, but like, yeah, I mean, I never got the chance to play the Coliseum XD games, so I think that from what I've watched of like gameplay and stuff, it's like they're flawed. Um, but there's I think there's it's there are definitely some unique ideas. Um, and so I feel like and maybe an enhanced version or something of those would be nice, or dare say even a sequel. Um, but and like it and like it annoys me that like stuff like Pokemon Go has adopted they kind of stole the concept of shadow Pokemon um from Coliseum XD, but other than that, they acknowledge it.
Yeah, like I guess I just feel that like given that we're at the end of a console generation, this is the time for low effort remakes, remasters to keep franchises going while they work on the more involved games for the next console. if we don't get a Coliseum XD remake, remaster, whatever now, then we're probably not going to have another opportunity for at least, 3 to 4 years? So, I mean, this is the one direct where no one is expecting a new generation. We're expecting really side games, remakes, and there's the opportunity, depending on how many external development partners they bring in, for several of these. I mean, oh geez, who was Coliseum? Was it?
I don't expect them to do Gen 10 until like 2026 when we have the 30th anniversary. That would be a great time to start a new gen. So I hope they kind of let Gen 9 spread out a little.
I definitely agree. I think it might be a bit. I think it would be good for the community as well. I want to make sure I give Archaic time to talk about this, but yeah, it's. I think especially with the current mindset right now that the the Switch era of Pokemon had some really great stuff and some really subpar stuff. And like just the fresh wounds of Scarlet and Violet, and seemingly the general consensus being if the game worked and ran well and was prettier, it would be considered a masterpiece. I think it, like everyone has said, it's so much better to wait.
And if they can't wait, they need to bring in third-party development partners who can actually assist them on what needs to be done.
Yeah, or expand their permanent team or something.
Well, they don't seem to have been hiring for that purpose, so even if they had been, I don't think they'd be able to do it that quickly. Like, if they were going to do it for something that's going to release this year or next year, it would have to be external partners, surely.
Yeah.
And just due to time, one thing, and you actually sparked this an idea from last cast, Archaic. Um, I would like to just spend a little bit of time focusing on something we definitely haven't talked about, which is what do you think we could expect other than Pokemon Horizons from the Pokemon Company after Pokemon? Oh, I can't remember it. I just had it. I lost it. Like all of the more recent Pokemon anime and shows that have just knocked it out of the park.
Oh,
Ooh.
like concierge and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually really surprised me that they announced the additional episodes of Concierge in basically a bunch of tweets instead of having it in the Pokemon Day presentation as a big announcement. I think they're going to talk about it in the Pokemon Presents, but announcing it before that was just weird. Unless they're going to tell us, and they're dropping today, that would be awesome. Um, but yeah, okay, so February Pokemon Presents last year announced. Uh, well, actually, let's go over that briefly just to remind ourselves because we haven't actually done that. So it announced the dates of the Pokemon World Championships in Yokohama, Japan. It announced the trading card game Classic set. It announced Pokemon Concierge. It announced the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero DLC. It gave us details about Sleep and the Pokemon Go Plus Plus. And then we got like Zash and Unite, the Gen 9 starters in Cafe Remix, and Masters EX anniversary stuff. The August Presents uh, gave us like information about the Pokemon World Championships that honestly we didn't need, given that the World Championships were about to happen at that point, and it's not like anyone could qualify for it or make sudden travel arrangements to go there at that point. Um, they announced the Path to the Peak and Paldean Winds series, as well as first details on English broadcast of Horizons. They gave us stuff on Detective Pikachu Returns, on Pokemon Trading Card Game Stadium 2 for Switch Online. They gave us, actually, this was pretty packed presents. Like, they gave us Pokemon Go stuff for the upcoming events there, as well as debut of Gen 9 Pokemon. They gave us the actual first sync pair from Paldea for Masters. They gave us Nemona and Pawmot. They gave us information about a new mode in Unite and the debut of Mewtwo. And then Cafe Mix, Pokemon Sleep's Good Sleep Day stuff, and the stuff for like getting Mew and Mewtwo. What else? I think they also had some stuff for the DLC. They had some DLC trailers. So, like the February one was not actually anywhere near as packed as the one around the World Champs. So, if we want to be realistic, we're probably not getting too many huge announcements. Like, I don't think we're going to get a TCG announcement this year because the two, like, Japan and international are out of step at the moment. They're a set ahead of us. They've had the rotation, we haven't, and I don't think they're going to give us another TCG Classic or anything like that. But anime stuff, yeah, we could potentially get. I mean, we'll get something on Concierge. We might get something on Horizons because of the global release. Maybe we'll get another small spin-off web anime thing announced. But I mean, who knows what would be in that if we got it. But beyond that, we're probably only getting one big announcement. We probably shouldn't get overly excited. We talk about all these possibilities, but let's be honest, unless it's going to be a very long one, we're probably not going to get all that much.
Maybe they could do announce something, some kind of animation tying into the Scarlet and Violet DLC. Because I know that there was I don't know if it would be like an additional episode of Paldean Winds, like what they did with Twilight Wings, or something completely different. That would be my best guess for something, a new animation thing.
I think I would love to see a little bit more with Paldean Winds, especially how they ended it, teasing new things to come. To be honest, one of my hopes would be, I don't know exactly what it would be, but I would love to see maybe just a new animation style. I think one of the things I love about Pokemon Concierge, it was so different. It was really a breath of fresh air, and I think it would be whatever it is. I would love them to expand their skill set and working with different animation styles. I have no idea what that would be, but I think especially with like 2023 going into 2024, this was really a year that was really impressive for Pokemon animation. It was perhaps one of my favorites. I know that not everyone is a fan of Path to the Peak, but I really liked the kind of like shonen life of like slice of life kind of thing they did with that. And to be honest, I said this last cast, but I have to say it again. And I know this is big with you too. We need like a Planet Earth style Pokemon show. I
Oh,
would love
yes.
that. I don't know if we'd ever get it But even if it's just something that could like tie into the fossil Pokemon, that's like my number two big hope. I would love to see like a documentary on those Mon.
I mean, honestly, this year would not be a bad year to do something along those lines. Like, because we're not going to have a new generation out, because we're likely not going to be having, like, any really. Well, I don't want to go out and say we absolutely won't have any big remakes of past regions, but, like, did they release any animation for Sinnoh when we got the BDSP remakes? I don't think we did. So I feel like this would be their opportunity to do something a bit more experimental this year when they're not having to tie it to a new generation game. So, something
I
like
think
that would be amazing. But I think what you're saying about tying it, so working with other animation styles and so forth, what made Path to the Peak different was that they were effectively working with Western animation rather than Asian studios, weren't they? Like, who did Path to the Peak? I need to double check that. Actually, it might. I think it was a Western production company at the very
Yeah,
least.
I'm pretty sure it was because I remember Path to the Peak was really kind of a breath of fresh air for me. That it felt a whole lot different than most Pokemon animations. Because it was produced by a Western company. Um, and so it just had a different tone and atmosphere, I think.
and I
And
think we
so
didn't get. Sorry, go ahead.
so yeah, I feel like, being able to work with different animation studios would kind of allow them to do a little bit more, different stuff like that, and that would be cool.
So I just
And I,
did a double check. So it was Taiko Studios uh, who did the work for Path to the Peak. So that's a American Chinese company. Interestingly enough, so like they've got studios in both Los Angeles and in Wuhan. So I mean, would they just work with them rather than pull out a completely new animation studio? And if they did, what kind of thing would they make? I mean, heck,
well, I
would they
believe
even just give us another Path to the Peak?
I think we did get, if I'm remembering correctly, I think it was entitled Hisuian Snow or something like that, which I think
Yeah,
was technically our Sinnoh show when those around the time when those games came out.
I
And I
think
can't remember.
Well, yeah, we
I
got
think
that.
that one came out a little later,
Yeah,
but yeah.
I mean, but it was meant to tie into Legends rather than Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl.
And I think speaking of other studios, didn't they just do Year of the Dragon animation short that was massively well received? And I think that might have been from another studio as well.
Uh,
Oh yeah, it was
I'd
like
have to look.
Homecoming, I think is the English name of it.
Actually, so all right, on this topic of animation, or on a related note to it, and I should have downloaded one of these for B-roll for us, but oh well. Um, the other thing that's been huge over the past year has been Pokemon music and Pokemon music videos.
Oh yeah, and the whole Miku collab,
Yeah,
which I thought would last for like a month and that was it, but it's still going.
it's still going. They're on a break right now, but they'll presumably be resuming that soon. But like an actual international official release of this stuff, I mean the project's been going, but like you don't see news posts by the Western Pokemon accounts or anything. It's all from Japanese accounts, and we're just translating this stuff. So an actual official Western announcement of, hey, this has been going on in Japan and all these songs, and you too are going to be able to buy these songs in this new album that's coming out or something.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Or like promotion of some of these other. I mean, Bitty Bitty was amazing. And the fact that they've been getting so many actual big name Japanese artists to make Pokemon music has been like I did not think we would ever see a music project for Pokemon on this level. I mean, heck, like completely out of left field, but give us a Pokemon music game with all of these songs in it. Yeah, it's a long since past time that we had a Pokemon rhythm game. And we know Game Freak can make rhythm games because they made Harmonite. So
Harmonite 2, Miku.
but yeah, like I mean, let's be honest, not all of these music videos have amazing animation. Many of them have very little animation whatsoever. Like the one we got recently, Encounter, was basically a couple of still images shown in sequence. Uh, but yeah, I'd love to see more development of that side of things.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna check my notes really quickly, but I think this was an absolutely awesome discussion. I know it might be late for some of our people, or for you, Archaic, very early. I just wanted to give everyone one more opportunity. I know personally, um, out of everything we discussed, there's quite a bit. But with that, is there anything that you would like to say to the audience, or anything to cement your hopes before we end the cast tonight, Archaic?
Okay, I will say the game that I would love to have announced, even though I don't think it would ever be announced, and I don't think it's necessarily the right time to announce it. Legends Arceus 2, where you are.
Where you're an Aura Guardian and.
No. I mentioned that as a possibility another time, but no. Where you're an archaeologist working together with Cynthia.
Oh.
Okay.
And you
That
could
could be.
you could go potentially. I mean, I don't know if you'd have like a time travel element going backwards and forwards in time or something like that, but just linking into some of that lore, and I don't know, maybe we could actually visit the Shinjo ruins, or all these other places that are not technically in a specific region, but
That would be pretty cool.
yeah, like I guess the thing I've always really wanted from Pokemon was more focus on story, more focus on the deep lore, and Legends felt like the first step in that direction. So, and even Scarlet Violet, I was personally a bit dissatisfied with some of the story in the main game. DLC's gotten better there, but again, it was definitely a move towards more story again, and Yeah, I would love to see that. I just don't think we're getting that sort of thing this year. I would love to be wrong.
And then Storm, is there anything like any last comment you want to make?
I mean, I think it would be cool to have them announce like a brand new spin-off. Um, that's not it's not like a new not like a sequel to a previous game like new Pokemon Snap or a mobile game or something, but like something something else new. Um, like I would love to do uh, a life sim game featuring Pokemon. I think that would be really cool.
So, like
Like
Pokemon Harvest Moon.
yeah,
Yeah, that would be cool.
yeah, like there's I've been replaying XY recently, and there was an NPC in some town that asked me like, hey, do you have a psychic or flying type Pokemon with you? I need to get luggage. I need to get down some heavy luggage, and I can use some help. And so I'm like, yeah, sure, you can borrow my Pokemon to do that. And I feel like it would be really cool to have a game that really just kind of expands on that idea of how you can use Pokemon abilities to assist you in daily life. That would be I feel like there's a lot of potential there.
I mean, that was one of the themes in Pokemon Ranger, wasn't it? Like, you yourself as
Yeah,
the player didn't do that kind of help much. You did that a little bit at the start with a few basic missions, and then you actually got into the real meat and potatoes of the story. But there was something like that, and I mean, even if you're doing it in a region that's not like with rangers, I don't know, a Pokemon handyman who uses his Pokemon to do various tasks for clients who need assistance or something could be interesting. I mean, you could essentially make that a puzzle game, couldn't you? Like figuring out the right Pokemon to use from your party in the circumstance to achieve the effect that you need to do.
or
Hey,
if you know what effect you need to achieve, and so you have to go out and catch the Pokemon that you need to do that.
Mm.
you could even be a Pokemon breeder who brings in Pokemon, raises them, and uses them for specific tasks around the village that you're
Oh
in.
yeah, that would be fun.
Uh, I'm not sure, but I think we're basically describing Pokemon Crossing for Nintendo.
Yes.
Uh, the fact that there hasn't been like a crossover between Animal Crossing and like the Pokemon as you see them in like Mystery Dungeon does seem like a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
I know personally, I think that would be really cool. I think it would also be like just the idea. One of the things I missed in Pokemon Black and White, that I thought was really cool, and it was such a brief clip, was the Skyla's whole like airplane operation. I know not everyone would be interested on like how you would use Pokemon to do like a full business of like running an airline and how Pokemon could be a part of that. But I think that's one of the things that I would have loved to see in like a Pokemon game like that is like starting up a business potentially and growing it through that means. Um
I mean,
yeah, but
back in the old days, it wasn't uncommon for major franchises to basically just take a common game genre and put their franchise coat of paint on it, and there you go, instant spin off game. Like, even when the franchise didn't have anything clearly to do with it. It's the kind of game that you don't see a lot anymore because, like, in the past, there was the idea that you could have, like, portable games on like your Game Boy or whatever that were more budget titles, and then you had full-featured games on the home console. But now, because the home console is a portable console, everything's got to be a full-featured game, and anything that's not has to be a phone game. But the franchises like Pokemon, it's good for them to have some of that B tier or even C plus tier content from time to time. So, I mean,
Yeah, just
Pokemon
something.
Business Simulator, you'd probably be doing something along the lines of Pokemon Daycare, managing a Pokemon Daycare. Or actually, Pokemon Concierge. That's how you do Pokemon Business Sim, isn't it?
Yeah, but yeah, I think that it's good to have different spin-off games to appeal to different people. Like I was they was it Time Magazine recently did a whole Pokemon uh a whole magazine that was focused around Pokemon, and I was reading through it at the airport, and there was a story that where about it was written by some you know a mom who had her two young kids try out Pokemon Sleep and Pokemon Smile, and um the kids were like super into Pokemon Smile, and they were all excited about brushing their teeth now because they had so they could catch Pokemon while brushing their teeth. But the gameplay in Sleep was too slow and boring for them, and they got tired of it. Um and so it was cool to read about that and be reminded that yeah, Pokemon is a franchise aimed at children, so there should be some good quality games for the children.
Jeez, I'd completely forgotten about Pokemon Smile, but it was still getting updates as of November last year. They could oh, gee, I could easily see them going, "Hey, Pokemon Smile is adding
Gen
what
2
are they?
Pokemon.
No, they've already added Gen 2 Pokemon.
They
Uh,
did?
yeah, in 2022.
Whoa.
All Gen 2 Pokemon as of the version 2.0 update. Um, so
Maybe I
Gen
should start playing Sleep again.
Gen 3.
Or Smile again.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not the thing that would set the older fans uh, off, but like there's definitely room for lots of other uses. I mean, heck, there was a article I was reading earlier about how a university in the US is using Pokemon Go as part of teaching higher level math because of like some of the rather involved calculations that are involved in that. And I mean, I remember this is going back decades now, but I got an email from a mother once. This would have been about what, 2007, I guess. Um, with a mother basically thanking us for having helped to make her kids interested in math because they looked up the catch rate page on Bulbapedia and they wanted to understand how they could actually calculate those values themselves. And I mean, we have had Pokemon educational software before. I mean, arguably Pokemon Smiles in there, that's more a health thing. But we've had like a Pokemon typing adventure, and I still say the keyboard from that is the best portable Bluetooth keyboard ever developed. Um, I mean, it's really good. um, but geez, I could see them doing something like that again.
I the only thing after the Pokemon Plus Plus name, I would not be surprised if they called a new version of it Pokemon Big Smile. Um,
I
but
mean, the Pokemon franchise has done sillier things. Let's be honest.
I do want to say I think we had an absolutely great conversation. I know that we have covered so many topics from awesome ideas for Pokemon Coliseum updates to Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games, and so much more. I think it's probably good to start wrapping here, just because I know we were trying to have hour to hour and a half casts. But I do want to thank you both for being here and giving such a vivid, distinct discussion. Stormora, do you want to remind our listeners where they can find your work on Bulba Garden?
Well, I am a uh, junior admin, so you will see my work on every page I edit. Um, you know, yeah, I'm Storm Aurora staff member, all that.
And then Archaic, obviously you are a webmaster. I know you contribute a lot, but is there anywhere else you would want to point people to on the Bulba Garden website?
Oh, there's something that I should be pointing people to actually, and did I add this into the OBS? I do have this here somewhere. Here we go. This is what I'd want to let people know about. Up on screen now for everyone on Twitch. We have coming up at the beginning of April the Catch a Million to Conquer Kids Cancer charity marathon, benefiting St. Baldrick's Foundation and all the work that they do in combating children's cancer, providing money for cancer research. Bulba Garden is going to be a big part of the event this year, and we will once again be streaming 24/7 for the entire event here on the Bulba Garden Twitch channel and on the event's main page at catchamillion.com. Now, Catch a Million is open to all creators, great and small. The only catch is that you basically have to be playing and catching Pokemon. So if you're interested in that, you can head to catchamillion.com or use the QR code you can see in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen to register and get more information. We're hoping to arrange all sorts of collaborations with other creators who are going to be part of the event. So, can't really give more information on that just yet because that's not all been finalized, but you can definitely look forward to a very intense week of Pokemon here on the channel. And I don't know if we'll actually catch a million Pokemon between all of the creators this year. To be honest, we didn't get anywhere near the past couple of years, but we'll certainly be doing our best and trying to raise as much money as we can for this worthy cause. And you'll see more information on that in the Bulba Garden Twitch over the coming weeks.
And then I just want to say, once again, my name is Roadhawk. I just want to let you know I'm going to be helping out more and more on these casts. We're going to have some absolutely cool ideas coming up. We are even hoping to do a reaction to the Pokemon Day Presents, among many unique ideas. So if there's anything you want to see, you have great ideas with us, I just want to say thank you. Please let us know. And with that, I do say we're going to start wrapping up here. And I hope you all have a wonderful night. Thank you for watching. And I wish you the very best. Have a wonderful Pokemon Presents day. And thank you, Archaic and Storm, once again for being here.
Nice.
Not a problem.
No worries. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll be signing off now. We'll see you all again. I guess the next stream here on the Twitch will be tomorrow with the Caps fan doing Mystery Dungeon mornings. I'll be streaming a little later with Starless Saturdays, continuing the post game in Pokemon Ranger, and then Dawning Winds will follow me after that with Pokemon Digital Art stream. So make sure to tune in tomorrow for that. But until then, thanks for listening, and we'll see you all around. Have a good one.
Peace out.
Bye.